This is the Transforming Anxiety podcast with Kelly Hanlon McCormick, and today is episode number 206, Letting Yourself Ebb and Flow. Welcome to Transforming Anxiety. I'm your host, Kelly McCormick. I'm a mom to 2 boys, a wife, friend, daughter, and sister, and I'm a certified life coach, yoga teacher, and soon-to-be mindfulness meditation teacher. I'm no stranger to anxiety, and I'm here to teach you how to manage your mind and your emotions so that you too can transform anxiety into calm, peace, and whatever you want for your life. I'm so glad you're here. Hey there. Welcome on in today. I tell you what, we're going to do something a little short and sweet, but I hope this is helpful. I hope it's a helpful little nugget in a short and sweet package today. So we're just going to get right into it. Today we're going to talk about letting yourself ebb and flow. And what I mean by this is allowing yourself to cycle through things, to let yourself feel intensely, like to go right through the fire, and then to back off, to let yourself relax in the coolness away from the heat of the moment. So if you felt intense feelings, things like fury, grief, depression, anxiety, you know how it feels, right? It feels like the bottom has fallen out and you're just in total free fall. It's like you're a live wire feeling so intensely in total free fall. It's a fiery experience. And those moments, those experiences, this is one thing I want to consider today as we look at this idea of letting yourself ebb and flow, that you can feel fully. You can allow yourself to come into contact with the emotion and be with it. You can sit with it. You can feel it. And then you can titrate out of it. Have you heard this term, titrate? As far as I know, it's only used in chemistry and medicine and meditation. So we're going to invoke it here too. Titrating in chemistry or in medicine is where you're continuing to measure and adjust the balance of a solution or a medication, and you're using the response to check in. Is it working? Do we need more? It's like art and science, really, because you're checking in with an individual or a specific experiment to see what's required. You go in and out. Add more, wait, then see what comes, right? Add a little more if needed. Wait again, then see what happens. So we can do this with emotions too. You can sit with something a little bit, see what happens, and then move out for a while. And then when you're ready, you can titrate back in. You can touch into the emotional experience again, check in with yourself. And when it gets to be too much, or perhaps you've processed something in a new and different way, then you can titrate back out again. So let me give you an example, something that came up for me recently. We've had a lot of health stuff going on in my family. My extended family, just a lot of big news, hard news, lots of questions and waiting and seeing, and it's scary. In some cases, it's been downright terrifying. And you get these phone calls, right? You have these conversations with family members and the news, it hits you. You feel it. Bam, right? And it can bring you right to your knees. The emotions are huge and they wash over you immediately. And maybe you share the news with whoever is nearby, right? Your partner, your kids, a friend. Maybe you talk through it a bit with someone. You can't help but be in it. It's so raw and fresh and new, and it's hitting you. It's there. And then you realize it's dinner time, and your son has to get to practice. So you take a deep breath, you rally a bit, you change gears and you go back into normal everyday life, right? You change modes. You chop vegetables. You boil pasta. You fill water bottles and drive across town to practice and hug your kids and smile as you see them join their friends. feels kind of ordinary. You almost forget for a moment that the bad news hit you earlier. But you also feel that weight, right? This heaviness in the back of your mind, in your heart, in your gut. And it tugs you down again, right? When you have a moment to think and remember. Maybe when you have a moment of solitude. It's like, oh yeah, that. And so you breathe. The emotion washes over again. It ebbs and it flows. You fall on your knees. And then you do laundry. You send emails. You take the dog for a walk. Then it comes again. And then you find yourself laughing at a joke, or enjoying a movie, or getting lost in a good book. And then again, the emotion hits you, and on it goes. This is how big emotions and huge internal experiences go. They ebb, they flow, on and on. And you find you get back to your set point. You get back to quote unquote normal. You find your feet back under you. You get steady. Things feel okay. You absorb the shock, the news, the intensity into life, and you live. You ebb and you flow. Now, something important about doing this consciously, doing this with intention, is that you can mindfully bring yourself into the emotion, into the experience, and then you can draw yourself back out to a quieter and more still place. You don't have to wait for the thoughts and feelings to arise on their own, like what we talked about earlier. You can do this on purpose to help yourself move through an emotion or an experience. So here's what I mean. Let's take an anxiety example. Just, regular everyday overwhelm, everyday stress, everyday anxiety. Let's say you're sitting there on a Tuesday night and things aren't feeling so great. You notice that you're starting to get a little amped up, that you're feeling on edge. So here's one thing you can do. This is actually something I do often with anxiety. This is a way to practice being with anxiety without overwhelming yourself. You can notice the emotion, notice the experiences happening, sit with it, be with it, notice where you feel it, breathe into it. And then, if or when you feel as if it's taking over, you can back off. And honestly, you ready for a really lowbrow way to do this? It does not have to look fancy. And this is a good reminder. This is certainly not the time to meditate. This is exactly when that will backfire, just for the record. You could breathe. In fact, I recommend keeping the breath in your attention, returning to your breath often. And you also could, here's where it gets really lowbrow. I'll have some better examples in a minute. You could do something like Sudoku or solitaire on your phone. I know, right? This is super fancy, super highbrow suggestion. But I tell you what, something like that saturates just enough of your attention to pull you out of the mental spin of anxiety. These are distractions. They're not all-out avoidance techniques. We're going to talk about those in a second. These are benign distractions. Knitting, playing a musical instrument, going for a walk, deep cleaning. There are lots of ways that you can distract yourself. The key to distracting yourself versus avoiding the emotion. You ready? This is important. When we think of ebbing and flowing, letting yourself ebb and flow, it's a matter of titrating into the emotional experience and then titrating out. And it's important to recognize what's a distraction. These are healthy, neutral things that you can do to pull yourself out of the intensity of an emotional experience so that you don't get overwhelmed, right? Versus an all-out avoidance. So let's talk about avoidance for a moment. Then we'll come back to the healthy distraction part. Avoidance. You're engaging in all-out avoidant behavior when you're looking to escape or numb or completely route around the experience. Like I used alcohol to do this for years, and it's quite effective, really, right? Some people use food. Some people use social media or overworking or over-yesing, where they like martyr themselves to any request or text or email or phone call that comes in. Some people go into zombie mode in front of the TV. People have lots of ways of engaging in avoiding their emotions, in avoiding conversations, in avoiding their life. Numbing agents are pretty effective, right? They work till they don't work anymore, right? But avoidant behavior isn't designed to help you. It isn't designed to nourish you or to make anything better. All it's designed to do is get you out of the moment. It's pure escape, and not in a healthy way most of the time. So let's talk about distractions, because I think the term distraction gets a bad rap. But distractions can be really helpful. Distractions are a skillful means of titrating out of the intense emotional experience so that you can take a breath, so that you can take a break. And then when the next wave hits, you're ready to feel and process and digest the experience further. Does that make sense? So here are some things that I personally use as healthy distractions. Things like going for a walk or a hike, playing the piano, doing a puzzle, reading a book, connecting with a friend, playing a game with my kids, cooking. Those are just some ways that I engage in distractions. There are lots of ways to healthfully distract yourself, but you'll know you're in distraction instead of avoidance when it's something that nourishes you and is generally at least okay, if not totally good for you. It's not something you're using as a way to tamp down the negative emotional experience. You're simply using the distraction as a way to hit the release valve and get some air. Then you're ready to get back to it. This is a way to intentionally, purposefully help yourself to ebb and flow through intense or negative or uncomfortable emotional experiences. These are ways that you can support yourself and actually move yourself along, move yourself through the process. Another hint with avoidance, you'll know you're engaging in avoidance when it's something that bottles up the emotion. Like emotion is no longer flowing. It just gets all jammed up. And when you return to it, the emotion is bigger. Like it's messier than it was before. So if you feel emotions growing inside of you, like if you have a growing resentment, growing anxiety, growing stress, right? Never-ending worry, if those emotions are getting larger, then you're probably avoiding them. Distractions help you to take a break so that you can continue the work of processing, meaning the emotions are flowing through you and dissipating. They're not getting larger. Make sense? So allow yourself to ebb and flow. Let that be okay. In fact, let that be a requisite part of the process when you're facing something intense, something negative, something uncomfortable. Remind yourself to ebb and flow. Go in, right? Feel it all. Let it wash over you. And then be willing to use a healthy distraction to take a break, to get some air, to restore and fortify yourself. Avoidance will not look like processing or progress. Avoidance will look and feel like a damn traffic jam in your gut. All right? Okay, so that's what I've got for you this week. Letting yourself ebb and flow. And listen, I'll be back next week. I have another interview coming up, another author. So I will see you at the same time, same place next week for that. And until then, take care. Do you have someone to help you with your stress, anxiety, worry, and overwhelm? If not, I would love to be your coach. The Fierce Calm Project is my virtual coaching program where we get to go in on topics like this one, and I can help you apply these lessons to your life so that you're creating your own transformation. We do live coaching calls, guided meditations, on-demand yoga classes. We hold book club where we read books your neighborhood book club won't, and there's lots of bonus content that I've created just for you. When you're ready to take what you're learning on the podcast to a whole other level, then come on over and check out the Fierce Calm Project at kellyhanlonmccormick.com/Fierce Calm Project.